Hi, welcome. This is going to be a little bit different. I'm a little sick, so I didn't really feel like I have a little bit of a fever, so I didn't really feel like, getting all dressed up for this video. So, anyways, I just thought I would do a different sort of video that kind of explains a few things some interesting things that I've come across in the last few days, and also just some overall things to take note of. So thanks for joining me, and this especially is for anyone who is kind of learning along with me and helping to dissect some of these messages. So hopefully this will be helpful. And so yeah, let's just get started. I thought it'd be interesting, or I thought I'd say how you can think of tarot as grammar too, in the same way that you would construct a sentence, and how there'd be a few different ways maybe to say the same thing. Conjugations, that kind of thing. So an example of that, oftentimes when I'm just listening to the news or something, cards will pop out to give definitions of what I just heard. And so for an example of how you can kind of overlap some meanings of cards, and I also try to show that in the video playlists, that some things are interchangeable, and to just kind of use your own common sense to see what applies in that space at that time. But for example, I was watching the news and someone mentioned forefathers, and these two cards popped out. So it's the Four of Wands, which I kind of think of as a founding. It's the beginning. It's the foundation point of something. Sometimes it's throwing a party and things like that. But in this case, four fathers. But as an example of how you could substitute a major arcana for the minor arcana, this also popped out for forefathers. So, and that's four and the emperor. So, also, the Three of Wands, or really anything, how can I explain this? I guess when you're talking in the third person, sometimes the Three of Wands or the Three of Discs or Pentacles pops out. So you can kind of think of that as well. And I think it's more so just having to do with like the context or the environment or the energy behind it. If you're talking in the third person in a fiery manner, then the Three of Wands might pop out, and that kind of makes sense. Three warm bodies, three fire energies. Three of Wands, third person with fire energy behind it, or maybe more grounded energy, in which case the Three of Pentacles might pop out, and also having to do again with like the context and what the sentence is talking about. This is probably for people who are really interested in the details and how all this kind of goes together. So something else I thought I would mention, especially if you're interested in numbers and like polls and things like that, this card, the Knight of Cups, represents percentage. So if it were to pop out with the Emperor here, it would mean 4%, or maybe, use your own common logic. If you're comparing, numbers, and something was at like 45% and then this popped out, it's probably not saying that like the numbers are going to go down to 4%. It probably means 40%, so always know that you can add or subtract zeros and reduce down, or just keep something as it is in terms of numbers go. So, but I thought that was really interesting and seemed to really want to come through. So, to let people know that this stands for percent, which kind of makes sense, kind of like a measuring cup. I didn't pull the card out, but the Knight of Pentacles can also mean upright. It can mean to bring something, like bring something to the table, and reversed where I wrote it down. Reversed. Where did I write it? Reverse the Knight of Pentacles can mean put the brakes on something. And it could probably be combined with like the Chariot. And since the Chariot often pops out in terms of military type things, or like anything having to do with officers beyond its own meaning of like a chariot, very literally, or winning, victory, it often pops out having to do with the military, like reading things in. And so also listening to the news in order to describe this word. This is the combination, maybe main combination, the Four of Swords. In order to describe this word, this is what pops out. It's the Four of Swords, which I do often associate number of letters in a name to swords. So that makes sense. And I think it's maybe, at least for now, the main descriptor for that word. What else? When I was listening to the news also, and one of the anchors said, "We'll be right back." This popped out. These are just some definite, this is the Eight of Cups, and it's about, so you can kind of take these things out of context a little bit and see how it applies. This sometimes means coming back or going out or something like that. So this definitely popped out whenever any news anchor says, "We'll be right back." So a couple other translations just to give you an idea of how these things work. This would be like a double-edged sword. What else? To go back in time is like the Six of Swords and the Page of Pentacles reversed. Fast forward, the Knight of Wands and the Four of Wands. So again, fast forward, and often the Knight of Wands is very fast moving energy. So now you can kind of see how the different translations can work. And I encourage anyone to get a deck of cards themselves and just kind of shuffle while or anything you're listening to, and kind of see what definitions you come to. I am writing a little dictionary of these, but I have hundreds of translations that go back over the past year. And some are more accurate that are more recent, as I've been learning, but, learning as I go. But, I have to pull them all together, and hopefully I'll do that at some point. And to mention shuffling, sometimes Temperance card, because she's pouring, water from one, or oil from one cup to another, and just the movement of it. Oftentimes that card pops up when I need to reshuffle the deck. So again, you can kind of like see the meanings behind or beyond just the basic imagery and how they might relate any way. And I think a good way, again, is to just sort of see on your own how different cards can mean completely different things, way out of context of their own typical traditional symbolism and meaning. But yeah, keep a lookout. Hopefully in the next month or two I'll have that together, and maybe I don't know what I'll do with it. Maybe I'll put it together into some sort of downloadable thing. I don't know. So anyways, I thought I would also pull a few cards and ask a few different questions, and just see if there's any answers that come through. Sometimes we're not meant to know things now, and so it doesn't always work that way, and I try not to abuse the fact that I can ask questions in a sort of direct way and get pretty direct answers. But I feel like when things are for the highest and greatest good of all, and especially in extreme circumstances or anything like that. Definitely sometimes the answers come through in regards to what others are thinking and things like that. Otherwise, I don't like to, boundaries and that kind of thing. I wouldn't try to get into someone's head, but I thought I would ask a few different questions regarding current events and things that people are wondering about. And yeah, so let's see. I was gonna ask who was responsible for the sonic attacks in Cuba. So again, this could just point in the direction of like a particular sign, or I didn't bring down actually the cards that sometimes, maybe I'll have to do another video, but the cards that give locations, so I'm not really sure what's going to come through. So just kind of use your own logic and discernment and see how it might apply with what you know and the facts and information that you have. So let's see. The moon just popped out. Number 18. So maybe reference the playlists and see. I have Adele there, and in the new playlist for August, it's Beyonce. So, and again, with like the Knight of Swords and how, that came through as saying take heed in combination with as a clarifier to the Seven of Swords and another card in a reading a while back. Sometimes the lyrics just clarify whatever it is, or the location or the setting, something like that. So the moon, though, and again, that's sometimes why I think of like eclipse energy, because you can kind of see like sun burst and face in the moon, and it's like parallel dimensions, alternate universe, and that's kind of how I was thinking of this new August playlist, where I recreated the world with using different videos, because at this point, I don't know, I was going to try to recycle videos and substitute videos as time went on, to be more relevant, to have the playlist be more relevant to current events, but I don't know, there's just so much, there's so many videos, amazing videos, and just beauty and fashion and things that I want to include that I don't think I should confine it to one world, so we'll see. I may just have to create more worlds in order to fit them all in, and I guess that sort of explains a little bit to me, at least, why we have other planets. There's just too much beauty in the world to confine it to one planet. So we'll see how it goes, and maybe I'll be doing one for each month or something, but we'll see. And so in the new playlist, I have Beyonce there, and because the moon also sometimes refers to your mother and just more maternal energy too, and so yeah, just see how it applies. And there you guys, alternate dimensions, or crossing the aisle, or taking the long road, I think sometimes too, or just going back to the start with something. Maybe 18, 9 is important, just numbers in general, but the tower's on the bottom. Number 16, so 2 major arcanas. Sometimes I think of this as like when lightning strikes twice, and this can mean a whole lot of different things. Sometimes this card pops out when there's a blackout, and like in a city blackout, and so that kind of works with the moon as a side note, and why I put, I think, Jay-Z in 16, because that ends blackout, and I think I mentioned thermal in one of my videos for this past August. and you can see that in the video. So yeah, sometimes this pops out when there's a power outage and with the moon navigating in the dark. So that makes sense as far as like a side note goes. But 16, maybe reference that video, the tower. Yeah, I mean, I'll probably have to go back and reference them too. I don't remember every detail in every video. So, but this is a surprise, maybe a surprise attack or a surprise mind blown. And also, I hope no one ever thinks that I take things lightly. It's just sometimes the way I talk, or try to make things more positive, or see the best in things, silver lining, or hopefully the reverse or reflection of what could possibly happen, good side of things. So, I don't know. I'm never trying to make light of things, but I don't always have all the answers either in advance. So, how these events play out, it's different every time, and that's where instinct and intuition really comes in. So this could also be some sort of like technological breakdown or something like that. But lightning, electricity, the moon, power, water, power outage. I don't know how that applies, so we'll just keep going. I'll pull a few more cards and see who's responsible for the sonic attacks. I mean, that kind of makes sense too. Rhythm, the moon, music, sonic, mind blown, electricity, sonic. So let's see, who's responsible for the sonic attacks? These cards just popped out. The 10 of Wands. Strength, courage, strength, power, and power, and the 8 of Pentacles is reversed. Working your way through something, checking things off your list. It's learning on the job, it's learning as you go, it's covering all your bases, hammering out the details. Sometimes it just means someone's like at work or something. It doesn't necessarily mean like apprentice energy, but it can mean someone who is like new at the job and just kind of working their way up, I think of too. Sometimes I actually found out that this means like an internet thread, or chain or something like that. So, and it's 2 8s again. So that becomes 16. And 10 reduces down to 1. So again, if anything's like in the first person, the Magician will pop out, and it's the I am energy. So in a sentence, it would pop out with some other cards to say I am in a state, or like I'm going somewhere, or just to say I, refer to your state of being. And but this is crossing the finish line. Think of like ticking things off your list, your checklist, your bucket list, crossing the finish line, laying something to rest, laying things down, laying down the burden. It's the end of something, the beginning of something else, and it's fire energy, so it's something it's pretty heavy. Maybe you've just been feeling like, or maybe people have been feeling like there's a lot of pressure and a burden or something like that. To let up, let down. Together they all add up to be 8 anyways. So again, that has to do with your power or numerology. And King of Pentacles is on the bottom. First sign, Taurus, Capricorn, Virgo. Environment, nature. further clarity for who's responsible for the sonic attacks. I think this just popped out because I said attack. The Seven of Wands. So sending people off, standing your ground can be a threat. I think of backup too, having a backup plan. Standing your ground because you feel like you have the truth. Reversed, like taking the higher ground. Often, it's in the middle of some sort of attack or something, but this person has the higher ground and they're pushing back. I don't know if any of this will make sense. So, Sun, childlike energy, but also I think of power and source, power source, solar energy. And it's number 19. It's being out in the sun sometimes. It's the daylight. Embracing, allowing help in and recognizing help, recognizing help when it's offered, recognizing I want to say gift or something. And there's 4 here too for sunflowers, and the King of Pentacles was on the bottom. So again, I don't know if that has anything to do with maybe I think of forefathers, Washington D.C., like maybe making sure, securing. Page of Swords is on the bottom, so right now this card is just popping up all the time for tweets, so which makes sense. It's the youngest of the energies, like usually Libra, or just a messenger, especially having to do with air, thoughts, internet, anything like that. So like a notification or something like that, but it's having a plan too. It's coming up with a plan. Someone who's very smart. I just want to say smart aleck. And because it is usually younger energy, and it's the little kid that has the information to share and the knowledge, but doesn't always restrain themselves or hold back because they're younger and they're still learning, like the 8 of Pentacles. And so I really just don't know how this all fits together with who's responsible for the sonic attacks, but I just thought of my sonic. I just thought of my brother because he's deaf. And frequency, the moon wavelengths frequency, and how when I had a crash, I felt nauseous and heard a high-pitched sound and blacked out and woke up with, sort of what happened. 2 near-death experiences. Anyways, okay, maybe I'll just move on and see if maybe it'll point in the right direction. And I often think of that with direction too, the moon with direction and the path to take or the way to go, seeing in the dark and illuminating something. So let's see. What else was I going to ask? I don't know if I should. I was going to say, what's going on in the Hermit Kingdom leader's mind? Let's see. Temperance. So balance, and this again, so I probably should shuffle, but shuffle a little bit better. But 14, that's the Temperance card, Sagittarius, or dipping your toe in something, finding enlightenment, finding balance, harmony, peace, tempering. Maybe the page that popped out earlier, tempering something, a message. These cards are too little to shuffle, so here, maybe I'll try. They're too stiff. This is Peanut, by the way. I hope people got that in that one video where I talked about the I Ching. I called it the Peanut Gallery because he was standing in front of my whiteboard with all the the tarot cards on it. It kind of looked like he was at a gallery. At least I make myself laugh. Temperance popped out again. And the Eight of Wands. Sometimes I think of this as also like reading between the lines. Another 8. 85. 13. Missiles. I probably shouldn't say that. This is the 6 of Pentacles, 9 of Swords. So again, an overlap with the 8 of Wands would be reading between the lines, just depending on what it is you're dealing with. And again, the Strength card is my little mini strength. I think of a big lion shrunk down. Okay, so back to and this is again receiving help. Mental, higher mind, using your higher mind, not being up all night with your thoughts, not worrying about something. And so again, you can kind of see how things go both ways, because this is, obviously if you are getting this advice, it might mean that maybe you have been up all night with your thoughts and just wondering how to give good advice. Sometimes I think of this as like taking care of something, and especially with this little guy here I found in a little stray. So 6, 9. Sometimes I think of this as on the bright side. Oops. So maybe that's what that's popping out for, on the bright side. That's why I had the colors there, Mr. Brightside. Because this one's receiving, and but it can also mean like give and receive and help and balance, and on a very, very good note, sometimes this can mean like receiving abundance of help, just from the universe, just kind of pouring down exactly what you need, exactly what you asked for. It's like good karma coming back to you. So not sure, again, how that applies to that. Let me concentrate a little bit more. Oh, and this is why I had the Marie Antoinette there clip, because that card was pretty prominent throughout August readings. So 9 of Pentacles, lifestyle. Maybe what's on his mind is the lifestyle that we here have. Maybe receiving news. Oh, that Strength card is the head scratcher I was talking about. Nice. Maybe just not being sure what to think. Maybe there's a lot of confusion on their end. given recent developments and things going on, yeah, the Hierophant just kind of popped out. It's government sometimes, or just some sort of establishment, town hall. Sometimes it's church, sometimes it's has religious context to it, like the high priest. Translations, and number 5 in the major arcana. So having the key, having a direct link to above, someone who translates, sometimes like an educational institution too, because of that, higher education, just going somewhere to seek better guidance, or higher guidance, maybe has some sort of religious something to do with that. Seven of Cups. Seven of Cups. Big cloud. Just thinking over their options, I think. Saying like, you would do this, that. So thinking over the options. This is like, oh, yes, you got it. So celebration, too fun, chaos. In that video I have is a little chaotic. So sometimes I think this is like going out, you're going out of your way or something. It's also with the eclipse, like kind of that twilight hour, another 8. Lots of 8s, a lot of things having to do with power, and I just want to say like zoning in on something, and that's why I have the high and dry video there too, world, because that's what I can do, is zone in on different areas through that sort of magnetic touch with the globe. And so it's probably, I don't know, I wish I had the equipment to, because then I could just easily like pinpoint where their missiles are, so and the devil's on the bottom. Let me think of like maybe like a master class or something, the learning and the education and something, being a master or slave or hostage to something, a situation, a relationship, advice, or something like that. 15, it can be finding someone sexy. I don't know how that really, it can just mean negative energy, and sometimes it can just mean like extraterrestrial, and I kind of think of it in terms of like Westworld, that kind of like extraterrestrial, like that's maybe sometimes where I think of like evil deeds and things coming from. So influences again, and it can always go both ways. So again, I changed the order up. I changed just history a little bit, putting the card that I had, or the video that I had for the devil, back at the Lover's position where I originally had it, to kind of show both opposite sides of some situation, and just that double-edged sword. 2 options. Cross your heart, hope to die. Crossing something off your list, intersection, a decision turning point, defense, to something, and just seeing both sides or perspectives, and I guess just knowing that there's 2 sides, but that doesn't necessarily mean that both sides are great. So it's just, sometimes I think this is like keeping an open mind and relying on your other senses and what you hear around you, and just kind of just think of like Karate Kid or something with this sometimes, like as an exercise. But, having to rely on your other senses in order to defend yourself, or, mental strength too. And the Lovers is on the bottom. Just not sure what to do. Because reverse, this would mean like you've made the decision, So again, the Lover, sometimes I think of Gemini. With this card, it refers to the Gemini card, and it's like, again, two sides of something, two perspectives. That's your perspective, their perspective, or, and universe, God, destiny, and space between, the distance between. I feel like 26, 29, degrees maybe. Lovers, though, the twins, and again, it's like maybe just not being flip-floppy, and not being too indecisive, because this can often talk about a choice as well. So trying to stay clear-headed and see the clear way through the situation. Maybe the 26th is important to something. Maybe I'll pull a couple other cards from the Thoth deck. Let's see if there's any overlaps for anything. Strength, again, although in this deck it's the Nine of Wands. It's kind of, again, it's Sun and Moon, opposites, like the Lover's card. Intersection, 9 arrows, Sagittarius. Maybe there's still a lot of that like solar eclipse energy affecting people. Who knows? 9, though, it's the end of a cycle, and it's wondering, like, usually there's, someone standing here, have stakes in the ground, just the end of the rope kind of thing, like wondering what's next. Again, defense, defense. Two Swords is on the bottom here. So again, peace. Moon, Libra, balance, peace, seeing the other side's perspective, getting into their head a little bit to anticipate, trying to put yourself in their position, try to put yourself in their shoes, if only to understand how to move forward. Moon in Libra, again, being decisive or maybe a little indecisive. And I think the moon is in Libra right now, or at least it was last night. So, yeah, usually for me, it affects me in a way where you're kind of like balancing, trying to weigh your options, make a decision. I'm usually pretty indecisive. So it's interesting to see how the moon really does affect you, and maybe it's stronger for me, but like just because of my chart, than for some others, but that's maybe why I took more notice of it. But it really does have a profound effect on people's emotions, and really just kind of more impulsive behavior sometimes too, or just things that, so again, maybe it's just taking a step back, reassessing, or two. This is, again, just kind of finding the common ground, the overlap, and the video I have there is on my paper planes, because these look like paper planes, and a crossroads usually, and that's set in New York. She also says something about the KGB in that video, so maybe I should ask something about Russia. Um, yeah, I don't always know all the questions to ask or what people want follow-up questions about, and like subjects are vast and very complex, so hopefully this will just be, I don't know what that sound was, that was weird. Ace of Swords. This card, what is that sound? It's like a cricket or something. This card pops out whenever someone says I like something, Looks like clouds too. But this is I want to say right for some reason. Right answer. This is the brand new thought. A lot of power, maybe a word or something like that has a lot of power behind it. And sometimes it's exciting, or it's just a brand new idea. It's the start of something. It's kind of like still in your mind. I don't know. The moon's on the bottom here too. So knowing how the moon affects your mind, and seeing the ups and downs. Maybe people think that it's in your mind that the moon affects you, but I've tracked it for 2 years now. And, well, at least a year and a half, and kind of just went on instinct. And when I double checked myself, and checked like what's going on, where the moon is, it does usually confirm what I'm feeling. So, right, maybe the moon is very important. The wavelengths, again, there's a lot of symbolism behind this card, and I wish I had the book with me too. This is, I think, Isis and Osiris. Egypt, I think of. Desert, or actually, I think reminds me of a soundscape graph that you can do astrology with, and instead of a chart like a normal round chart, you can do a soundscape. Which is really interesting. You can kind of see that roller coaster of energies and the ups and downs, the pull, push and pull, the ebb and flow of energy. Is just, yeah. So maybe it's illuminating something, bringing something out of the dark, revealing the truth, finding the truth, on a mission for truth. Cups, and the Three of Wands. Sun in Aries. This was popping up a lot. Again, I just want to say like a yes answer, but oftentimes like a correspondent or a mail, or waiting for your ship to come in, merchant, trade, cargo, someone who's standing over a cliff, waiting for their ship to come in, overseeing, they sent something out. Especially the Princess of Cups, so which I think of more as like sweet energy, but however that works out for you. All these crystals, the bird. Bird help, like I think of Hermes or Achilles, maybe, the helmet with wings, protecting your mind, protecting, again, defense, borders, protection. I don't know, usually I don't think of that with this card, so maybe it's just, I don't know. But 3 3 fire energies, third person, virtue, 3 missiles going into the water or something like that. The tower's on the bottom again, so 2 towers this time. This is sometimes escape too, I think of. Doors open, trying to escape. And fiery engine, or I think this is supposed to be a dragon, but it looks like a fiery engine, or like when you fire up a hot air balloon or something, and having to escape. It's way more dramatic than the other things. But there is this bird of peace here, and it kind of looks like what's on her head. So, and I also think of messages, and in like, yeah, with the 3 of Wands, wartime, like, you know, a long time ago, and they used to send out carrier pigeons, you know, and they'd send them in different directions back to their base, which I also kind of think of neurological, sending out messages and things like that. A side note, but that's actually, I think that's in some Ancient Aliens they talked about, or maybe I'm thinking of a different history documentary, but maybe watching the Founding Fathers Ancient Alien, maybe there'll be some like hints in there, I don't know. Yeah. Oh. 2 5s popped out, and I did just say that Founding Father, and how Washington D.C. is set up that way with the star outline going out, radiating out, which I also didn't think of the Queen of Swords card in this deck, where threads are coming out of the background and radiating out, so finding common threads. Also with the 8 of Pentacles from earlier, common threads, threads that bind, tying something up, tying up loose ends, that kind of thing. So we have 2 5s, 2 change cards, change earth and water, and then we have the 10 of Cups. And I think of some sort of like performance orchestra hall, like a sconce or something that you would see on like a big, or in a big auditorium with this card. But usually this is, again, and this card came up in a different deck when I did that reading before, because usually there's a rainbow and it's taking cover, and umbrellas, magical energy, 5 Cups, a change in emotions, river, Crimea River, Mars, Scorpio, and this one is, this came up in the last reading, I think I did, and so there's all the different symbols of chemical symbols, or maybe they're just elemental symbols, I don't remember. Mercury though, Mercury in Taurus. This is usually 2 people that they look homeless, they don't have, are walking in the snow, walking past what looks like a church that has warm lights on. So I think of charity, homeless people looking for a warm meal. And reversed, it can mean, you found that you're no longer walking past that warm, safe haven kind of thing. 5 though is a change, and again, it could just mean, because Mercury, thought, speech, Mercury, I think we're in Mercury retrograde right now, so it's kind of going back over things, or something coming back from the past maybe, or going in a different direction, feeling differently about something. 2 water signs, or water cards, so seeing the whole spectrum, I think, or maybe because of that, changing direction. I just think of a dome, or like maybe the Pentagon. person. So here, yeah, she's a little bit more of like a warrior type. 2 moons. Look at the Leda, the bird here. Being symbolic for thought and opening up a different, seeing things differently, wide awake kind of thing. Knowledge and like some sort of like family crest or like shield, or I think she's carrying lilies or maybe lotus, yeah, and streamers. She looks underwater to me. I always think she looks like a mermaid. Maybe she's supposed to. Usually this is just creative energy, so I think of like creative solutions too, and bringing creative solutions to the table. Emotional, creative solutions, creative intelligence. And just changing how you see something, changing your fate, changing the ending. So let's see, is there anything else? Again, this came up when I asked about, gosh, a while ago, a long time ago. So I don't exactly know how that, but it's another 3 of Wands, 3 in Major Arcana, and it could be the same thing as I was talking about before with the Forefathers, and then the Emperor being a substitution for that. It's 3 of Wands, and Princess of Cups maybe being representative of the Empress. Shield, defense again. Opposite, 2 moons. If I think of anything else, I will do another video, but hopefully this was at least a little bit enlightening about how to, read the cards differently and see the different options and possibilities and grammar and translations and all of that. And yeah, so thanks for watching, and have a great end of the week. Bye.